Hi everyone, my name is Joel Winfox. I run Winfox Herbal here in Black Mountain, and today we're at the John Wilson Community Garden, and we're just going to do a short little herb walk for everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate that. If any of you are interested in getting medicine in the future, my website is winfox-herbal.com, and y'all should also check out all the amazing things Bounty and Soul are doing for our community, and I'm very happy to work with them. And let's get into it. The first plant we'll talk about today is black-eyed Susan, and that the Latin for that is Rudbeckia hirta. This plant was often used by Native Americans as a wash. They bruise it and apply it for burns and swellings. The root has some immunomodulating properties similar to echinacea. This is actually a cousin of echinacea. So the root shares some of the same qualities. Perfect. I was going to say, probably it's good to, instead of just staying on me talking, to get a little pictures of the plants. Another amazing thing was they would actually juice this plant and use the root juice, they use the juice from the root for earache. So they'd apply it topically for earaches and some types of ear infections. These days, it's used, they make usually a tea from the leaves or the aerial parts, and that is used for worms. Most specifically, I think hookworms and roundworms, although I could be wrong on that, but I know it helps to combat worms. It's an anti-parasitic. It's used for colds. It helps to promote sweating, so it will help expel colds and flus out of the body, as well as we talked about, its immunostimulating properties. So those can help you, a lot of times when your immune system is kicked on too much, it can really make your body feel like it's, getting run over by a truck. It kind of helps counteract that. No one wants to talk about immunosuppressant, but anytime you talk about an herb being anti-inflammatory, you're actually talking about suppressing the immune system. So we probably all need to get over the stigma behind that and realize that sometimes that's a good thing. And an amazing plant, grows a lot here in western North Carolina. You can usually find patches of it. And because it's so pretty, people often grow it as an ornamental. All right, let's walk this way. There's some prettier ones in flower up the hill. Maybe we can get a shot of those later, but for now, this is comfrey. A lot of people are familiar with comfrey because it is one of the most powerful skin healing and bone healing herbs. The root is normally used because the root is considered to be stronger than the leaves. So the root used to be nicknamed knit bone because it was so effective for fractures and any type of abrasion, cuts, lacerations, any type of basically your skin opened up. It's great for healing it over. In fact, it's so powerful at healing the skin together that it almost always has to be mixed with an antimicrobial herb or an herb that fights off infection, because if you use it on its own, you actually risk it healing so quickly that the skin heals over and the infectious tissue kind of stays there. So it's a powerful healing ally. It used to be used heavily internally, but it contains something you'll hear about sometimes in the world of herbal medicine called pyrrolizidine alkaloids, often abbreviated as PAs. Now, those are somewhat liver toxic. Using an herb through a practitioner, sometimes you can use those herbs for maybe 2 weeks, but just using it on your own is definitely not recommended, especially if a person has a history of hepatitis, jaundice, any type of disorder of the liver or gallbladder. It can really take a toll on. But it's a great healing ally. As far as when it was used internally, it used to be used internally for coughs, especially like dry, hacking coughs. So whooping cough type of issues. Used also internally to heal fractures and ailments. Anywhere the skin needs to be healed over, bones need to be healed back together. A powerful healing ally, but as far as it goes, I personally, even as a practitioner, normally only use it externally. So that's all I can really recommend that other people use it for as well. And this friend right here, we've all probably seen a variation of this. This just dropped seeds, so that's why the seed heads are here but kind of empty. It's got a few left on there. This is a plantain. This is a variety of plantain. So when you see the narrow leaves, look for the ribbing on the back. That's Plantago lanceolata, or lance leaf plantain. A lot of us are more familiar with Plantago ovata, or a broadleaf plantain, and those have wider leaves. They're probably in just about everybody's yard or driveway. This is probably one of my favorite and often overlooked herbs. It is a natural antitoxin. I have actually got stung by a bee before, chewed up a leaf of this, put it on the bee sting, and by the time it was starting to burn, it already took away the pain, inflammation, and swelling from the bee sting. It draws toxins out, so it can buy you time for a venomous snake bite. Of course, nothing is a substitute in that situation for getting to the hospital, but anything that can give you a little extra time and up your chance of survival is a wonderful healing ally, and that's what this is. It's often overlooked, powerful healing ally. The leaves can be used as tea or in tincture internally. They're good for urinary catarrh, basically painful, cloudy urine. They're also good for excessive fluid in the lungs, when you have a lot of bronchial catarrh. So it's good for issues where there's excessive fluid kind of bogging down either the lungs or the urinary bladder and interfering with its function. And in addition to that, the seed pods are actually used in Chinese medicine, and they're called Sheiqiangzi, and they are used to brighten the eyes. So a lot of people with problems with floaters in the eyes, if your eyes get dry and tired very easily, the seed pods from this, either as a tea or a tincture, help improve that circulation to the eyes, and they are said in Chinese medicine to brighten the eyes, based on that concept of improving the circulation for them. So a wonderful one, and a very easy one to overlook. I mean, we'll probably see the other varieties of it as we're walking around as well. I'm not going to say too much on this one, but this is evening primrose, which is why the flowers are closed right now. In daytime they close up, but evening primrose seeds are commonly used as a natural source of omega-3s. They provide GHA, which our body can convert, or GLA, gamma-linolenic acid, which our body can convert to omega-3 acids. Often used by women after having childbirth who are going through postpartum. They help to reduce some of that because they reduce what's so-called baby brain, which is where basically all your DHA, dihexalonic acid is going towards the baby for their brain and their formation of their mind and eyes, and it kind of leaves you lacking. So oftentimes it's used to help with those issues for postpartum mothers. But a really fascinating one, because you always see it like this during the daytime, but the flowers will fully open up right around dusk. So as we go into the evening, the flowers open up, which I always thought was kind of fascinating. Mm-hmm. Since most plants are photoreactive the other way. Mm. There's a huge patch of nettle over here.
Ooh.
And speaking of which, this is probably the one you're more commonly seeing. This is a Plantago ovata, or the oval leaf plantain. Both plantains can be used totally interchangeably. They work exactly the same. is one you want to be careful not only how you handle it, but when you harvest it. Right now, the fact that it's got these seed pods on it indicate that this already has compounds that are somewhat toxic. If you are going to harvest this plant, which is nettles, Urtica dioica, this is the true stinging nettle. More common around here out in the woods, you usually see the wood nettle, which isn't as powerful stinging, but this is usually more the one that you want to use medicinally. So stinging nettles is a nutritive. It provides a lot of micro minerals that our body needs to be able to function correctly. It's technically listed as a CNS depressant, so it can help if our central nervous system is kind of running too hot and heavy, which is common in the summertime, which is probably the reason that its ideal time is early summer to harvest, or even early spring. You want to be careful. All the little hairs on the backs of the leaves and on the stems are little, think of them as little micro hypodermic needles, each one containing formic acid, the same thing that's in an ant sting. So that's why if you've ever come across it without knowing, you might have, had your foot all of a sudden feel like it's on fire, or your arm if you brushed against it. It's definitely a plant that treats you how you treat it. So if you're gentle with it, it's gentle with you, and vice versa. If you're not, then it's not. It's a great, powerful healing ally. It's one of our only natural antihistamines in this area. We'll be talking about the other one as we walk around today, but for people that are prone to allergies, especially this time of year as the ragweed starts to come in full bloom, which I don't know about anybody else, but it gets to me a little bit. So this is a great one to have. It works best in tincture form for its antihistamine effects. It's really a great one to add to tea. It's a diuretic. It helps the urinary system function more effectively, but it's a gentle remedy, best taken over long periods of time because it's more of a nutritive than anything else. But a wonderful healing ally. Tons of it out here at the community gardens, as you can see. And normally wherever it grows, it does grow pretty prolifically. It spreads very easy. All these seeds it's about to drop will, become next year's nettle plants. Speaking of culprits for allergies, this is Ambrosia trifoliata, or common giant ragweed. This is what, if your allergies are going nuts right now, this is the culprit, most likely. Or it might be a tree pollen, but most likely it's that one. For some reason, the pollens just tend to not interact well with human sinuses. They tend to get in there, irritate, cause that hay fever reaction. It's often been said that you could eat part of the leaf and the leaf has a natural antihistamine reaction, but being is that I have such a severe reaction just from the pollen of the plant, I haven't really had success with that, so I don't like quoting things that don't work for me to other people, so I'm certainly not going to get behind that use. If you do see this growing anywhere and you're prone to being allergic to it, I encourage you to just rip it out. There's plenty of other food for beneficial insects. I'm already starting to get a light headache just from being around it for like these 2 minutes. Not my best friend, to put it short.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to assume everybody knows poison ivy, so watch your feet as we get past here. There's quite a bit of it around. This has been a good year for poison ivy. It really likes all this wetness that we've been getting, but it's a highly variable species. As you can see, the leaves range from as dark as that to as light as that green, and some of them have the fringed border like that. Some of them just look like they've got 3 leaves, but that's all poison ivy in here. So one interesting thing about poison ivy I'll mention as we're walking is if you come in contact with it and you notice it, you have 30 minutes to get that oil off of your skin before it becomes a systemic infection. So, if you are prone to bad breakouts of poison ivy and you notice you come across it, try and either run your afflicted area under some water, or I've even rubbed dirt on it before to neutralize the oil. That being said, there's a lot of plants that we can use as well to help neutralize those oils. One of them being this one. This is a lady's thumb, or heartsease as it's sometimes called, but it's a nutritive. It's obviously, with it being called heartsease, it has an affinity for the heart. It's thought to be a heart blood tonic. It's in the genus Polygonum, Polygonum pennsylvanicum, I believe, or Polygonum persicum, one of the two. You know, sometimes the ones that are the Latin I don't use all the time gets a little difficult, but you often see this growing in borders like this. Sometimes, you know, if it's in an area that gets sprayed a lot, you wouldn't want to use it. There's been some toxicity reported from this plant over the years, but most of it has probably been environmental based on where it's been growing. I personally have never had a problem with it. It will take over, but it's got the chickweed and everything else to compete with here, so it's doubtful that it'll do that. But it can be used. You can rub it on and neutralize the oils from, you know, the poison ivy, as we were just talking about. That being said, another useful ally right here is the chickweed. It's starting to look a little bit beat up. It's a little more vibrant, maybe 2 or 3 weeks before now, but you know, you can usually tell it by the little delicate flowers, the leaf structure. Stellaria media is the Latin name, and I like to think of this one as very cooling and moisturizing. So again, you could poultice it or use it topically to get rid of poison ivy rashes, but in addition, you could also use it topically for burns. And internally, it's often used for lung dryness or dryness. It's used both internally and externally for dryness of the skin, and it helps with dryness of the colon as well. So if a person is prone to dry stools, it can help with that. A lot of people around here add it to their salads and make pesto out of it because it's a powerful nutritive, and it's one that grows very prolifically. If you just grow a little bit in your yard, you'll have plenty for the year. I will say I prefer to kind of take the leaves and the flowers off of the stalks. If I am going to eat the stalks, I like to chop them. They can get a little stringy sometimes. So just as far as food prep goes, that's something to keep in mind. Oh, this one's almost in flower. This is our other native antihistamine. It gets a bad rap. Everybody wants to blame goldenrod for their allergies. It's not responsible for your allergies, believe me. Its pollen molecules are actually too large to aggravate that same receptor site that ragweed does. So the reason it gets blamed is because it's more showy. So it has nice showy yellow flowers, which we can see at the top of the garden. Maybe we'll work our way around. But wherever it grows, a lot of it grows. It tends to grow on borders like this. The most common variety around here is Solidago canadensis, which is sweet goldenrod or Canadian goldenrod. And if you kind of rub your fingernail on the stalk and smell it, it has almost a sweetish, almost smells like pie or something. It's got a nice sweet aroma to it. Goldenrod, you can use the entire aerial parts of the plant. I tend to go maybe about a foot down from the top. I feel like the tops have more of the medicine in it, and that leaves enough of the plant to, although it doesn't need any help growing. It's considered invasive in some circles, but I like to, let it have enough leaf structure to give it energy so it grows every year. If you are going to harvest something, I encourage you to make sure, number one, it's definitely what you're looking for. It's good to use guides. One of the guides I'll recommend, if you already know what you're looking at, is the Peterson's Field Guide. Now, if you don't know what you're looking at, Newcomb's Wildflower Guide is probably the most accurate one. So I kind of use a combination of these two. The Peterson's is better with the medicinal uses. So if you already know what a plant is and just want to know the uses, this Peterson's Field Guide is better. But if you don't know the plant at all, it's best to use both. It's best to use the Newcomb's Wildflower Guide along with that. So just figure I'd break that out. It's always good to use a guide. There's no substitute for meeting a plant in person on an herb walk, though. That's really the best way to get to know them, having an expert idea. There are some poisonous lookalikes around here. If you are going to harvest a plant, be familiar with its poisonous lookalikes and their traits. Even the comfrey we talked about earlier. Some people have been poisoned by mistaking the leaves from foxglove for comfrey, which is an often fatal mistake, because foxglove will stop your heart. It contains cardiac glycosides. It's used in very minute doses for arrhythmias and tachycardias, or helping to regulate the heartbeat. But in large amounts, it suppresses it totally. So be very careful. Be knowledgeable of any poisonous lookalikes. Goldenrod. That being said, if it's in flower and it's showing golden flowers, I don't know anything that looks even similar to that. So it's usually a pretty safe one. Using the tops, in addition to helping with allergies, it's also good for anywhere where the mucosa is irritated in the body. So if you have a lot of inflammation in the urinary tract because the mucosa of the urinary bladder is inflamed, very specific for that. If you're having a lot of maybe lung pain because the mucosa around the lungs is irritated, great for that. I like to think of it as very soothing for any inflamed mucosa in the body, and a natural antihistamine. One thing that you do need to watch out for is it does cause mainly water and not salts to be excreted. It is a diuretic, so you wouldn't want to use it for an extended period of time, or you could have too much of a buildup of salts. Normally the urine should contain a blend of both water and salts. All right, how we doing so far?
Doing great.
So these aren't in flower, but this is an invasive you'll see a lot around here. It's Japanese honeysuckle. I actually forget the last name. Something japonica. Lonicera japonica is the Latin name for it. Honeysuckle has very distinct gold. Well, they turn gold as they get older, but usually they start out white, then the flowers turn kind of silverish, and then they go to gold, which is why the name in Chinese medicine means gold and silver flower. You'll usually see it overtaking a fence. It's very highly invasive. It's kind of kept in check here by all the other invasive things, colts flitting everything around it, or ground ivy, it's a really amazing plant. I really encourage people to use this often instead of echinacea for a lot of acute colds or flus. It contains 7 different antiviral compounds. I'm not sure if it got moved with the change, but at one point I had an article on my website about all the amazing things about Japanese honeysuckle. It's a natural antibiotic. If anybody's ever used a common Chinese product called yin chow, it's one of the main ingredients of that. and it's very specific for infections of the genitourinary tract and the respiratory tract. So most colds or flus or STDs, it's usually one of their go-tos in Chinese medicine. It helps to remove heat. So anywhere where there's a lot of inflammation, a lot of infectious material, sometimes with yellowish or greenish coloration to indicate an active infection, it's going to be really good for helping with that. The stems are also used in Chinese medicine. They're called red tang, and they help to clear heat from acupuncture meridians. So various parts of the plant are used. It's highly invasive, but it's a useful invasive. So, you know, it's good to have around overall. Let me see if I can get to it. So, this is Joe Pye weed. I really like this plant. Just because I love plants with a good backstory. I'm a sucker for a good backstory. And this plant's got a great one. So, this plant, Eupatorium, this is the smaller sweet Joe Pye weed. They used to call this gravel root because they used to call kidney stones gravel. So the root itself contains what we talked about earlier, pyrrolidine alkaloids, but the root is also very powerful for breaking up kidney stones. So I often use it in remedies for kidney stones, especially since that's not a long-term tincture. Part of how it got its name, Joe Pye weed, was during typhoid fever, you know, in the early 19th century, or was it the 18th or 19th when typhoid was going around? I'm not sure. Anyway, there's an Indian theme promoter who promoted using this to help break the sweat, to help with the body aches. So they use the tea of the aerial parts of this to help with typhoid fever. Maybe that might come in handy these days with everything that's going on. But a powerful, useful plant. Every part of it is used medicinally. In addition to that, often attracts butterflies and hummingbirds. They both love the nectar from it. So it's a great one to attract beneficials to the garden. Often it likes to have its feet wet, so if you're looking for this one somewhere, usually near a creek bed or near where the water table is kind of high, is normally a good place to find it. And there's two varieties. This is the shorter variety. The taller variety can actually get up to 6 to 8 feet high. So it can be quite a tall one, but wonderful healing plant. Eupatorium is the genus.
Is this mugwort, Joel? Is that mugwort?
Does it have silver on the back of the leaves?
Hard to say.
No, I don't. I think that actually might be another variety of ragweed. There's an Artemis-leaved ragweed. Just from the seeds. The seeds look like they might be that. I'm not gonna say for certain, but it doesn't. We'll just skip that one. Yeah, that's the best rule. If you're not sure about something, you know, there's plenty of other things to use. I've got a lot of mugwort growing in my garden, and usually the leaves are a little bigger. And I'm pretty sure that's the Ambrosia artemisiafolia, which is the it's basically Artemis leaf mugwort, or Artemis leaf ragweed. So ragweed will, blend in with anything. You won't even notice it's there sometimes until your allergies start going crazy. This one right here is creeping wood sorrel. And it's a good natural source of vitamin C. It does contain some calcium oxalate, so you wouldn't want to eat a lot of it raw. If you ate like a ton of it raw, it would give you a kidney stone or gallstone, but a little bit's fine. They used to use it for scurvy, because obviously scurvy is deficient of vitamin C. If you eat a leaf, you can taste a little of the lemony taste that comes out. Which, just for the record, you shouldn't, eat a leaf if you're not sure what it is. But here we know exactly what it is. Other than that, You can cook it, and it breaks down the calcium oxalate a little bit to reduce the bad reaction in the body. So if you were in a survival situation, you could cook it down, use this food. At least you're still getting some vitamin C. But just kind of one I like to point out. Kind of, not super useful medically, but a good little nutritive one that you usually see around. A good one to snack on while walking around in the heat. So earlier we started out by talking about Black-Eyed Susan. This is Black-Eyed Susan's cousin, green-headed coneflower, Rudbeckia, lactin. Sometimes it's hard with the Latin on the ones I don't use all the time medically, but I think it's Rudbeckia lactina or lactinata. But green-headed coneflower. Again, was used for the leaf tea was used for colds and flus, which it seems like just about everything you look up in some guides say, oh, it was used for colds and flus sometimes. But an interesting thing about this one was they would make a balsamic preparation of this. So I'm not sure by that whether they meant they would make balsamic vinegar out of it or make it into a balsamic vinegar, but they would make a balsamic preparation of this and use it for urinary catarrh, which we talked about earlier, is cloudy, painful urine, especially with sediment in the urine. So that's probably one of its most common uses. But again, a pretty plant, great for the beneficials. Bees love it, birds love it. It's just got a nice display. Anytime you can, have a bunch of sun-colored flowers around, I'm sure it does a lot to brighten the mood.
Mm-hmm.
And hidden behind it and kind of grabbing onto it a little bit is poke root, or poke, if you will. Medicinally, I use poke root sometimes. It's probably the most powerful herb for lymphatic and glandular congestion. That being said, I never use more than a gram of the root on 150 to 180 pound adult. And usually I only use about half of that because it is a very powerful herb. And most powerful herbs are toxic if you don't use them correctly. Old timers in the Ozarks and in the Appalachian Mountains used to use the berries to help prevent rheumatism. Now, you have to be careful because the seed of the berry is toxic. So what they would do is they would suck on the berry, get the juice, and then spit the seeds out. And they would use that kind of as a natural anti-rheumatism, anti-rheumatic preparation. These ones, I tend to just use it more medicinally on the root. The berries, even if you don't eat the seeds, still have some toxicity. I know some people tincture them, but I just prefer to err on the side of caution when it comes to toxic things, especially if I'm giving something to somebody else. But it's a good one to know. If you do see it popping up like this, and you don't want a ton of them, you'd want to pull this out at this time before it drops all these berries, because every one of these berries that it drops will become a new poke plant, and before you long, this will be an entire patch of just poke. But kind of a good one to get to know. Good one to have a healthy respect for. Definitely one that will poison you. I've heard of people making poke salad, and a lot of people poisoning themselves trying to. Now, the proper way to do it is boiling through at least 3 changes of water. But even then, it's still got a lot of toxicity. They would only do that with the young spring growth. Like this growth right here is already too old to do it with. So if you are going to try and use traditional remedies and things like that, I would encourage you to educate yourself all the way so that you do them properly and don't poison yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it was.
Probably have enough battery juice for a few more.
Okay. We can, wrap up. I definitely don't mind if we skip standing in the sun.
Same. Got some
And most
shade
of the
clouds.
stuff we've already talked about. I mean, there's some hammering in there, but that's, there's places in the shade we can talk about pretty much all of it. Let's cut through. This is milkweed, which is poisonous. You wouldn't want to use it internally. They did use it internally sometimes, but you have to do a lot of preparation to take away the toxicity. One of the interesting facts that I always like to bring up about milkweed is that so it's usually got these sacs, these little tufts on it when it's about to drop seeds. They would actually use those to make mattresses out of way back then because they're soft. This one is a great one to grow for beneficials. Butterflies and caterpillars love to kind of put their young on the underside of the leaves. So if you are going to weed this one out, definitely check underneath all the leaves to make sure you aren't, taking away butterflies home, basically.
Mm-hmm. Ooh.
And last, but certainly not least, is Sambucus nigra, which is a black-berried elder tree. If you're getting the blue berries, then it's Sambucus canadensis. This is a powerful healing ally. The leaves used to be poulticed on burns, bruises, and scrapes. Every part of this, except for the berries and the flowers, are poisonous. They contain pre-cyanide compounds, so you want to be cautious of that. It's fine topically, but internally it will kill you. So it's, the same as any medicine, you have to have a healthy respect for it and make sure you're using the proper parts. The berries, most people are probably familiar with, they are a powerful antiviral, specific for helping to counteract viral spirochetes, which are a type of virus that basically has almost a little arm, and they poke that arm into our cell nucleus and then make that into like a viral replication factory. What elderberry does is it coats our cells in a defensive thing that not only prevents that, but it breaks off that arm, so then that same virus cell can infect any other cells. So it's very protective. You want to be cautious though. If the person is running a fever, it does increase, interleukin 7. One of the interleukins, it increases, so it does increase a fever. So if a person already has a high spiking fever, you would not want to use the berry. The last use we'll talk about is the use of the flowers from this. I use the flowers from this in my allergy formula. They help to get, when the nose is inflamed and the sinus passages are just weeping, it dries that up and reduces inflammation in the sinus cavity. So extraordinarily useful, especially for people suffering from allergies this time of year. And there's some mint growing right here. I don't know, do you have time?
Mm-hmm.
All right,
yeah.
Well, we've got a little time left for mint.
Last one, round it off with some mint for the summertime.
Mint is a great one to throw in our tea this time of year. It's a cooling diaphoretic, so that means it helps us create a sweat that will cool our body off, as opposed to a warming diaphoretic, which creates a sweat that warms our body off. This helps cool our body off. It is specific. Peppermint. This is specific for helping to, it any gastrointestinal pain, it alleviates, so it's considered an analgesic, which means pain relieving. So it's pain relieving for anything, any stomach pains. That being said, there are some instances where you would not want to use it in the stomach because the oil from it can be very stimulating. So I think some cases of gallstones, it might be contraindicated in. Other than that, it's an antispasmodic, so if your stomach is clenching up, it helps to relax that. It helps alleviate gas and flatulence, and overall just aids digestion and freshens the breath. So it's anywhere it grows, it's pretty safe. You can tell anything in the mint family by the square stems. It's got square stems on either side, and it's very aromatic. That's about it. Like I said, if anybody wants any more information or wants to get some tinctures or medicines for somebody they care about, winfox-herbal.com. Please help support Bounty and Soul and their great mission they're doing of helping to feed our community. And thank you for your time today.